right? I was trying to write about what it was like not to eat for 60 days as a 13-year-old boy, and without really being aware of how hard it was. It's one of those places that I haven't fully entered all the way. And so for whatever reason, it kind of needs to be in this book. And so that was another thing. But it got me thinking about what it's like to live. I mean, does anybody deny that they have darkness in them? Are you one of those people that is always bright and chipper? Whoops, I'm about to lose power on my computer. So I was thinking about that. I got to plug in my computer here. Um, that it's one of those things, as a yogi's committed to truthfulness. I don't know about you, but sometimes living with a disability gets me down. I don't know about
Yeah.
you, but maybe you're perpetually, the glee globbing, but I even know that Bethany has ups and downs, right? I mean, so part of that is acknowledging that, and then what you do to transform it, but not bypass it. So one of the things that's so hard about writing what I'm writing this weekend was that and it's not even very many paragraphs. I just couldn't get it right. Was that I didn't want to make things up because the 13-year-old boy wasn't fully aware
Mhm.
of the threat and how hard it was to be disconnected to what I would say is a fundamental form of grounding. If you think about what eating and drinking is, it's actually the most basic exchange between you and other. It precedes people, it precedes a whole bunch of other things. It's a fundamental exchange of energy that helps you be part of the whole, right? And then it's got social consequences and all that stuff. So it's really ungrounding to not eat or drink for 60 days. It's really bizarre, right? But but and as you know, the experience of disability can also kind of make you feel marginalized too. And then it also gets tiresome. And whenever I'm a little bit having a dark wave, right? And they're not huge, I'm lucky, right? Um, that I know it's almost always because my mind is falling down a rabbit hole.
Mhm.
Right? And part of the trick is to figure out, not the trick, but part of the is to figure out not just how to get the mind out of the rabbit hole, but to let go of the rabbit hole, right? And so part of what's so hard, and one of the things that I've taken really seriously in my yoga practice is, without it being a moral insight, the commitment to truthfulness, to honesty, and by the way, like, and to self-reflection and to acknowledge what's true. Most of you on the call aren't truthful because you're in the direction that you're too hard on yourself, because that's not truthful either. Letting yourself know what you know, right? And so truthfulness is a very strange commitment, right? But so truthfulness to the fact that everyone's got a little bit of a dark side, and what do you do with it? And there's a whole yoga is often used as kind of a spiritual bypass, right? As a way to go, oh no, I'll just breathe in, breathe out, and everything gets better, right? No matter how much I breathe, this culture right now has made a choice that I don't fully understand and have to accept anyway, and all this stuff, right? But I'm in a situation where, like you are all too, that the disability and the struggles of it is unrelenting. It's gonna never stop asking stuff, and what part of you meets it. So I've had various versions. Plus, I'm writing a book right now about the realization of empty space as texture, right? as an expansion of consciousness. Can you believe I'm writing shit like that? I don't even know what to say about that. Try to write a whole book about the realization of emptiness. But all of you kind of know, because I'm trying to get you to feel the empty space in the center of your chest and in the center of your joints. Think about it, kind of makes sense. I'm the guy that's been since I was like 13. And then, especially when I was 20, I started talking about asking people, can't you feel the empty space? Like literally, my friends back in college were like, oh my God, he's talking about empty space again. Right? I've been working on this for a long, long, long time. And so depending on if you're processing that realization through mind, too much of your mind, what I find is when I process that energy that's here as part of existence, when I process that too much through my mind, I'm more prone to falling down rabbit holes. Except I'm committed to the truthfulness that that energy exists. And sometimes I am down rabbit holes and all that stuff. Because so the yogi's kind of caught in a paradigm, in a thing that's got push-pull in it. And it's a paradox, right? You have to be truthful. The truthfulness does this. So at various times when I'm hyper aware of, especially my mind is more aware and tells stories about the emptiness and how it's disconnecting. I think that the Glee Goblin just tried to pop in. I'm not sure. Yeah, so we've already been talking about you coming in midstream, and you were right. They were more sympathetic to you, Bethany, than I was. But that's an aside. Um, yeah. You want to say something in your defense?
No, oh, I don't need a defense. It sounds like I'm well
Yeah,
represented.
whatever. Yeah. So getting back to this thing is that when I'm over mentally aware of the empty space and the emptiness as separation, that is often a time where I'm more prone, not just to anxiety, but to seeing the world through the rabbit hole, right? Seeing everything through the rabbit hole. And I hope that some of my words are making sense to you because you have your own version of this, because we all have our own versions of this, right? So I remember I was going through a period of time where I was teaching at a yoga journal conference, and I got one of the great things about having gone to all these yoga journal conferences is that every in the early days when I was there, which was not the early days of the conference, but when I was invited, they used to have the faculty be able to have a place where they all ate together. So I got to have lunch with various people. And I had a conversation with two yogis, really long-term yogis, much longer term yogis than me, Victor Van Kooten and Angela Farmer. Okay, so Victor Van Kooten was a dark dude, right? He kind of had his psyche broken early, into his practice, and had definitely had a dark side, was also a wonderful teacher. Um, and then Angela Farmer was like a fairy. She was like magical. She's long and tall. And literally the way she walks, it looks like she's floating in the air as she walks. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. So I just asked them because I'm only gonna get able to ask them a couple of questions in my entire life. I'll probably never see them again. So being the seeker that I am, I'm not going to waste the opportunity. Right. And so I asked them, both of them, um, so what do you do with the darkness? What do you do with the chasm that comes from the realization of knowing that, what I would say for our context, feeling the emptiness as part of the texture, right? And what do you do when you start becoming over aware of it, right? And Victor gave some super dark answer. I'm still thinking about it. He's an artist too. And he said something like, this is literally what he said. And then he tried to explain it to me, but he was beyond words. I mean, the guy kind of, I think, had something happen to his psyche, but I think probably did too much acid or something. I don't know. He was out there, right? But he said, I dropped the hunter. That's all he said. wasn't particularly helpful. Coming from a very dark place, a guy that was still down a rabbit hole for the rest of his life, I think, while also being a fabulous yogi, right? Of the subtle body, by the way, of the subtle body, right? And Angela just says, oh, honey. And she leans forward and she puts this light, magical hand on me and says, you have to visit the darkness every day. You have to let it be here. Doesn't mean you have to express it. It means you have to let it be here and transform it. Right? So I deeply object to a yoga teacher that tells you that, oh, somehow the yogic path is the way to always stay in the light. No, actually, that contrast between Victor Van Kooten, who is in that place and still a fabulous yogi, and Angela Farmer, who had learned how to like have the lightness that we try to get out of our spines, was literally in every fiber of her body. So she kind of floated, right? That both of them sit with what's true without making it heavy. So how do you transform what's true? How do you make sure that it stays in balance, that your mind isn't doing too much with it? Turns out part of why I formed Mind Body Surgeon is that the body can really help. It can break the mind out of its rabbit hole pattern. So sit up straight and tall. And I don't know what to do. I don't know. I feel a little bit powerless after this election, right? When I watch what I think there are things I can't even process, right? I can't even process what we're doing to the environment at a critical time, right? There's a whole bunch of things I can't process, right? And I don't want it to color everything, but I don't also want to not acknowledge it. I don't want to make up stories for my anger, right? I don't want to make up a description of the 13-year-old boy that isn't truthful when he wasn't able to eat, right? I got to do something else with it. Truthfulness demands something else. What's your story? So start to feel your feet on the ground, your sitting bones. Make space. Create the structure to make the space so the emptiness can also become lighter. Right? It turns out that if I try to do that directly in my head, like, oh, just have a better attitude, that tends to be full of shit for me. Oh, just think differently about it. Nah, it's got to be something else. My mind has to receive the lightness, not try to create it, because it's stuck in a different place. Right? So I got to let the energy come from somewhere else. And if I'm truthful, the somewhere else is more nourishing. That when my mind falls down into a rabbit hole, I've squished the dimension out of existence. So I woke up this morning knowing I should listen to, and I did listen to, a little bit of Sun by Semisonic. Because I know I just need a little bit of sun in. Not to deny that I've got this going on. And so just by acknowledging and making space and following Angela Farmer to go, yeah, there it is. There it is. Oop, there it is. But it's not all consuming. It's just more consuming for my mind. So I'm going to start allowing my spine to precede my mind. So feet on the floor, sitting bones. I know I can get a little bit of sun if I move 2 directions in my spine. If I go down through my sitting bones and lengthen my spine and lift my chest, if I'm being truthful and my mind isn't in charge, it's a little bit of sun. seems like a good time to inhale. Good. And then I'm going to let the thing get heavy again. I'm going to drop my spine back down and go, oh, how come I live there every day? Because to be constantly extending my spine is actually too freaking hard. It's too hard to live perfectly, right? I'm going to go back and try it again after like collapsing. I'm going to show my mind that, yeah, you can hang out where it's heavier, or you can transform it. So again, I'm going to feel my feet on the floor, my sitting bones, lift my chest, and now I'm going to smile across my collarbones. What a barfy instruction, right? But I'm going to get the dark side of it by expanding the energy between my shoulder blades. So first I'm going to feel the sun. Oh, that's happy. That'd be the spiritual bypass. I can lift my chest anytime. And then I'm going to get the back side of it, which is between my shoulder blades. And then I'm going to go back down through my sitting bones, back down through my feet, lift up again and broaden. Now I'm going to feel the space between my ears and my shoulders, open to what's behind me, and let my extending spine process what's actually happening. And my mind's been living in a closet. Good. And then release, kind of fell itself into a closet, right? That happens sometimes. So I keep watching Pat. She keeps rotating around. She's got her own thing that she needs as her mind gets static. Because when her mind leads, like Pat thinks she doesn't know anything. She thinks, I don't feel this. I don't get what the hell he's talking about. But if I keep moving, it makes more sense. I'm following Pat, right? I'm like recognizing that she's practicing her own form of wisdom here, right? So, especially if I had to listen to me, I'd want to move too, right? So I'm moving around, trying to get it all more something that it's got space in it. Because have you noticed the mind is the great space flattener? That even when it looks into the Grand Canyon and sees expansion, that the mind somehow sees it as one big chunk of nothingness, as opposed to all the dimension that's actually in the Grand Canyon, right? And then Juan Kundera says, the problem is part of you wants to jump in. And be visiting a little bit of darkness, right? And going like, the thing is, some of you know that the darkness feeds itself, and if it goes too quickly to action, then it can become more addictive, right? It can be the go-to. For me, it's staying up really late, spending too many hours too late at night, right? That's how I know I've got issues, right? So I'm going to come back to something, put my elbows, same things. Like, this is what I love, having a practice that I know that I can just revisit. So again, I'm like in the elbows on the table, the palms together, the triangle. Remember the other day, last week, we're talking about all different triangles, right? All the ways I'm trying to get my mind actually to instead of like judging and falling down the rabbit hole with the empty space, right? Right. And over judging it, I'm trying to have the empty space be outlined by my body, so my mind doesn't overjudge it, right? So I've got different, then I'm thinking, oh my God, my skin actually can actually do poses too. And I'm gonna like extend my spine again, keeping my midline grounded with my elbows and my hands, or if you can't put your hands together, to ground somehow, and then let there be the empty space that my mind's been judging all weekend, trying to find words, right? And I just need to bring it home. And then I'm going to add some symmetry to it. I'm going to breathe into each nostril, into each lung, feel each sitting bone, feel each foot on the floor, especially by the heel. So the heel's got a little bit of darkness in it, right? I'm not just going to lift on the collarbones, but I'm going to broaden between my shoulder blades, and I'm going to balance the sun and the moon there. And I'm going to keep my hands grounded, and I'm going to let it all be at once. And I'm going to breathe. All this was waiting for me the whole time. By the way, have you noticed that and then release? A lot of creation requires some level of darkness, right? Anyone ever notice that? Right? Right? Creation and destruction are part of the same thing. So lean forward. I'm on my, right? So in fact, the words are gonna come to me that I need to like be able to have. I know, I just have to stay with it. Right? So now I'm leaning forward and grounding my forearms on the bones, and I'm remembering that I have bones, by the way. Right? I like my bones. Do you like yours? I like mine. Right? They ground me, right? And so I'm going to extend my spine. I'm going to start lifting my sternum up, looking up, right? So lately, for about 2 years, and then I'm going to release, I'm doing kind of a version of upward facing dog. Lately, every time I do this, almost every time I do this, where I'm extending up, I laugh at the yogis, right? Because I can feel how they want the up and the down in every movement. So as my spine goes from the earth, from the down, lengthens and goes up, right? Like we're about to do again, right? So I'm leaning forward on my right on my legs, and I'm going up, right? And even my gaze goes up, right? But if I just do my gaze up, if I just try to bypass, so if I just like look up with my eyes, have anyone ever strained their eyes before in a yoga pose? I have. It usually means I'm not doing the work in my body I need to do, trying to do it with my head too much. So I'm going up and I'm like following it up with my gaze. Doesn't it make sense that they stuck the tongue out down and opened the mouth really wide to keep the down? So do that crazy weird one, right? If I just look up, something's missing. If I look up, open my mouth, and stick my tongue out down long, ah, ha, ha. There's another dimension there. Good, and then release. Okay, am I being too weird? Can you feel that what thing that's added to the pose when your tongue goes down? Thumbs up if you know what the hell I'm talking about. Something happens. Whole dimension gets added. It's a little bit of sun, right? Because there's more. There's always more. I'm going to try it again. I can tell you, I did not expect to teach this thing all of a sudden or show this thing or do this with you, but I'm liking it. I'm getting how there always needs to be a balance. So I'm forward again, right? I'm grounding down. And as I go down through my feet, down through my sitting bones, my spine naturally, as the flip side of that action starts to extend, I can't help it. When I go down, there is an equal and opposite reaction up if I'm paying attention. If I keep then I add my chest, lift under my collarbones, but broaden the back of my sternum. So I keep the back side of the pose. Then I start to look up with my gaze. But wait, I'm going to stick my tongue down again and my mouth open and feel the change in my whole body. gotta tell you, when I do that, do you notice it's a hard time to breathe though? When my tongue is sticking out like that, I'm actually on retention. What the hell? So retention is part of the darkness? Probably. Yeah. These yogis are freaking wacky. They're sitting there hanging out and stuff, like following something. You get to follow it too. One more time, because this is suddenly making me happy. Is anyone getting thirsty from this? I'm getting thirsty. I have no idea why that's happening. Forward, grounding, extension with space, knowing that I both need to lift under my collarbones and spread the space between the shoulder blades. Have the down and the comfort of the earth as I rise my spine up towards the sky. Reach to with my center of my chest towards the sky. Let my eyes follow, right? And then down with my tongue. And then release. Oh no, we're gonna have to do it one more time because I just thought someone else's voice just came in my head. Oh, I told you I was raw, and when I'm raw, I'm weird. Okay. And so all of a sudden, all these voices that I know that are tracking some truth start coming into my head. So I'm feeling the yogis that are doing this weird thing with their mouth in relationship to their base as they're going skyward with their spine. All of a sudden, I'm thinking, what the hell? And as I was just doing that, I heard Richard Freeman come into my head because he and I were talking one time. We were at lunch at another yoga general conference in Florida, and he's telling me, I said, Richard, what are you teaching in class? And he goes, oh, I'm teaching kind of a weird class. I'm teaching on inversions and the upper palate. It's like, what? What the hell does that even mean? Right? Why, when he's upside down, would he be emphasizing the upper palate? But then I sit there and I remember that he's never not been thinking about the bandhas, right? Ever. He and his wife, that's all they think about. That's all they talk about, right? So he's upside down and he's going this way with his head's going down, his upper palate's going up. And I'm thinking, what the hell is he even talking about? This guy's done too much acid, right? Back in the day, back in the 70s, right? Except then he goes, well, and then he has me do this. He goes, well, and all of a sudden we're talking, and I don't know what the transition, we're talking about Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha out of nowhere. He's like, oh, like talking about these damn bandhas again. Don't worry about it if you know what the hell those are. But he said in the complete in the completion of the bandhas, and he's saying this upside down, which I can't figure out because I can't go upside down like he can, right? He said, when you start doing it up through your spine, the upper palate supports the eyes going up in the top of your head, right? You got to do it. And that's part of the down action, which helps you go upside down when you're in inversion. Don't worry if these words don't make sense. But what I'm saying is that really, when you start to raise your chest, we're going to do it in upward facing dog here in a second. But when you're raising your chest and we're getting the front and back and we're getting the light and dark and we're getting the grounding and the expansion and we're doing all this shit I've been talking about, right? And you're rising up. And I was saying, as you raise your gaze, your eyes, the mouth has to open and the tongue goes down in order to balance out the rise. But now we got to add the upper palate supports the eyes up as the tongue goes down, right? Because the truth of yoga is going to happen, and Navasana is going to happen at every point in every pose, right? So we're going to try it again. If you're completely lost with what I'm saying, the words don't matter. We're just going to do it. Okay. Remember, I'm waking up for a little bit of sun, but I'm not gonna deny the other energy that's here. So I'm gonna figure out how to transform it through my yoga practice, not try to bypass it. And I'm exploring how to do this vibrantly through my spine. That's what this class is about, right? So now I'm forward and my forearms, remember, so I know I need to create the structure for my spine to be able to express, right? So here I'm forward with my bone on bone, because I already know, like I already know about this position. And when I go bone on bone, I'm towards the earth, right? I'm towards the part I don't control, right? By the way, we don't control the earth, we just live here. Okay. And we waste it, of course, right? So I'm here and I'm going to ground my sitting bones, right? And as soon as I start doing that, my spine starts to extend. I can't do one without the other, not really. I may not notice that my spine extends. That's different, right? That's my mind being caught in a rabbit hole. I'm not paying attention, so I got to do that. So as soon as I ground my sitting bones, I feel my feet more and my heels more, right? So now I'm keeping this base here in my hands. I'm going to start to go up, right? Lift my spine, lift my sternum. Want to make sure I get the sunlight by broadening across my collarbones, but I'm going to broaden between my shoulder blades to keep it balanced. I'm going to extend my spine. You can feel it natural as my center of my chest moves towards the little bit of sun, right? I'm going to start to follow, right? Now, I want to make sure as my tongue goes out down to follow the earth, I want my upper palate to support my eyes. And I'm going to notice I don't want to hold that too long because I can't breathe when I'm in that position, right? That it somehow is taking retention, the ceasing, making sure it's going, let's call the ceasing, maybe seem a little dark for the mind, right? To taking it and making sure it's going down and up simultaneously. So I'm not going to want to stay there too long because I'm not breathing there, right? But I'm going to appreciate it. So before we do it one last time, thank you, Richard Freeman, for saying this to me 15 years ago, and me still being able to hear it, right? That's what it is to be a yogi. You keep hearing truth, right? Truth does not have like an expiration date. It kind of just sits with you, waits for you as a seeker. And I trust he's a crazy nut on the bandhas. And what he just showed me was the difference between, for those of you that know anything about the bandhas, I think that whole thing about getting the upper palate while the tongue goes down is actually the way that Uddiyana Bandha completes Mula Bandha. But who knows? I might be just making shit up, right? So I'm going like this and I'm going to get the grounding again. But now I'm going to let my mouth be a cave, my lips together, teeth slightly apart. We just lost someone. Oh, I think that maybe Catherine. Maybe that's not the teaching, right? Right. So I'm going to let my mouth be a cave. I'm not going to be afraid of the dark unknown part. I don't really get to know. If my mind tries to know that, it freaks out, goes down a rabbit hole. Lips together, teeth slightly apart, because even the cave can be soft. The cave doesn't have to be hard. Right? I'm gonna like keep my elbows on the table and open my palms. Remember that there's skin here. It's not just bone. I'm gonna raise my chest a little bit and do the whole pose without doing the whole pose. I'm gonna go through all the spaces I just went through. In order to truly extend my spine, I have to have my legs more. Figure out how to have your legs more. Take a couple of breaths. So I keep thinking that if I were to oversimplify what just happened in this election, people thought they wanted more instead of taking, and if you're struggling, I get that, but a whole bunch of people wanted more when they already have enough, right? They already have enough. I think probably Elon Musk has enough, right? I'm guessing he might have enough. But, you always want more, I guess, right? Or is that part of the rabbit? Okay, so now we're going to do the same pose again. We're going to get the up and the down, the light and the dark. Soften the jaw, the inside of the mouth. Ground. Start to activate your spine. Rise it up. Broaden. Extend. Open. Upper palate follows the gaze. Tongue goes out. It's hard to talk when I can't breathe, so. And then exhale. And then without all the extra stuff, inhale. Extend your spine again. Take this energy that has both light and dark in it and start to make it more rhythmic. Right? If you're honest, you want the light and the dark. You're being truthful. Now I'm going to go and accentuate the up. Go up and over the back of my chair. And then come forward through the balance point and come through forward. So now we're kind of ending with a spine version of sun salutation, right? We're not ending though. And then up, through, up and over. Come back through. So your spine doesn't get dark. Your spine already has it both. And then up again, through, back, up. Now I'm going to start rocking a little bit from side to side. Take this energy and fill the room. My mouth's a cave and it doesn't have to be scary. It can be dynamic. It doesn't just have to fall in. My mouth's a cave. The palate goes up. I remember the down of the tongue, right? Because those are just expressions of the energy that's here. Back the other way. Sunlight's even better right after it's been cloudy for a long time, right? Water's better when you're thirsty. It's like a huge relief. The hell? The mind's a slow learner. So I'm just moving through all of these spaces, letting my spine lead, my mind receive. So whatever movements work for you right now, do them. Just try to let your spine in all its dimensions, all the colors that it has, all the lighter colors, all the darker colors, lead. So I'm doing all sorts of things to enhance. So as I come forward to this, I'm get the grounding and go up. So I'm gonna let this grounding be what my mind struggled with as darkness, and realize that it's part of the extension. And I'm gonna do it the other way. And I'm gonna let it all be here, all encapsulated in asana. I can't believe I left my mind alone again. Right? I can't believe my mind wanted to be alone again. Right? It's like, no, minds don't want to be alone or shouldn't be alone. They get really stupid. Right? So I'm going to revisit. Minds get stupid when left alone. Right? And then forward. And then up. And then over. Pushing on my legs to keep the down. Going up and over. Right? Forward again. Sun salutation's not stupid. Right? It's got a whole bunch of energy in it. Oh, but I gotta remember to broaden here, broaden between my shoulder blades, hit down through my sitting bones, extend through my legs. All these things, you know, so your mind forgets really quickly all that it's going on. I'm a little bit worried on these back bends because seems like my backrest is getting loose. So if I go flying out of my chair this way, just know a bolt just gave. Just a little bit of edge. How come people like darkness or threat or risk to focus their minds? Right? Well, if we wanted a little bit of extra threat and the world to be a little bit more uncertain, I think the United States just did it. Right? All right. So I want to go up and take this arm behind. Ooh, I better be careful. See, when I get all happy, my mind starts to transform. I want to do too much. So I got to be careful right here on this shoulder. It's been fragile lately, and I want to do everything with it right now. So I'm going to take some time, slow down, open. So I'm going to try to get this stretch here. Drop my shoulder blade down. As I drop my shoulder blade down, I go down through my sitting bones, down through my feet, as an expression of my tongue going down, and still let my upper palate go up. What? Richard Freeman revealed a trick? Yes. In the guise of inversions in the upper palate. Good, and then release. Take the other arm behind you. Right? Open it up. Get this open. Go down, go up. Let the palate go skyward. Let something go down. Let your mouth be a cave all at once. Good. And then take both arms behind you. Right. So now I'm going to broaden across my collarbones and roll my shoulders back. Go down. Right. Down through my sitting bones. Down through my feet. Then we got this crazy yogi saying upper palate through the eyes go skyward. Right. As something maintains going downward. I'm literally making my mind go towards the sky and the earth through having multiple directions in my mouth. Breathe. So don't actually stick out your tongue. Good, and then release. Take your right arm up. Take it down. So we're gonna do, that was like a version of shoulder stand. Now we're doing a version of headstand. So I'm trying to get this to roll in. I'm trying to lengthen down with my shoulder blade, knowing that the earth would be pushing here. So I'm gonna push it against the sky. Excuse me, while my elbow kisses the sky. As I drop towards the earth, as I hit down through my sitting bones, as I extend up through the top of my head, as I hit through my sitting bones and down through my legs, extend up to the top of my head, but now I add the upper palate going up towards the sky. And I keep the downward energy of the tongue going down. So my legs go down so I can touch the sky. I'm going to pull the sky down to me by taking the tongue down. And I'm going to breathe. Good, and then release. Now, does this mean that the mouth is going in multiple directions? The top of the spine is going in multiple directions in every pose? Not necessarily. It's just a technique to catch more of the energy, more vines that are here, right? So I'm going up this way. I'm making sure that I don't get the earth here, but if I was upside down on the ground like Richard, I'd get the earth guaranteed this way. So I gotta like use the sky there, drop my shoulder blade, get my sitting bones, get my legs, right? And as I hit down through my legs, I extend my spine, my palate goes towards the sky. The energy of keeping my tongue out and down stays down with my legs. I go inward and I feel everything. I need everything. Good, and then release. Right. Now, if you can, I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to be able to do it as well because once I take both arms over my head, I'm going to go off balance. And so this is kind of, for me, this pose is more for show, but I want to, feel like I'm part of what would be more of the whole pose. So I'm going to go up with both arms. And it doesn't suck. I can figure out ways to make it work, right? So in fact, I'm doing a better job than I expected. So I'm taking the shoulder blades down. I'm feeling the earth here. I'm actually taking the wrist right up as, I don't want to talk about that, right? So now I'm letting my upper palate go, which would be into the earth, but here for me, it's skyward. It's the earth for Richard, right? Keeping something down. And I'm going to feel the multi-direction happen, even in the inversion, even though I'm upside down. And a microcosm is happening in my mouth. Good, and then release. What? So I remember when the depth of a thought, at least part of it, finally struck me about the universe, about how at least physics think that that the laws of the universe, or the physical laws, are equally distributed at every point in space, right? And same with the principles of asana, right? So not only can the center of my chest be a microcosm of a whole pose, so can the inside of my mouth. Biggest Angar, I watched him enough time teaching where he can make the foot as it's standing in Tadasana be a reflection of the entire pose. Any space can be a reflection of the entire pose because we're rising and falling in every moment, because light and dark are equally distributed, because all this stuff, right? And so these things that we're talking about, right, can be reflections of the entire pose. So we're gonna do one more version of shoulder stand. Take your arms behind you. We're gonna add a little bit more. So I'm gonna, you can do whatever you want, right? So I'm gonna take my shoulder blades back, hit down through my sitting bones, lift my chest, hit down through my sitting bones, go beyond the top of my head, but include my upper palate as the extending tongue goes down, but without moving my tongue, right? Now I'm going to lift my sternum even more and I'm going to drop my chin in humility. And I'm going to let it all be true the same way. Good. And then release. Very gentle twist, right? Right arm up, round, back. Smile with your twist. Wring some of this out, right? Other arm up. Extend over. Get your base. Gentle twist. There's no winning. Keep your skin in the pose. Multi directions in your mouth. Good. And then release. I can tell I just want to feel a little bit of space in my vertebrae. So I'm going to lean forward, vertebrae of my back. And I'm going to remind myself of where I started with an extension in my spine. I'm going to let my upper palate follow. Stay down as my upper palate goes skyward. That's why the tongue stays in the lower palate. Breathe. Good. And then remind yourself of a little bit of symmetry, because the relief of Shavasana needs to try to come into the empty spaces equally. So I'm going to pause for a moment, and part of the pause for me ends up as I feel the relief everywhere. I end up holding my breath just a little bit so I can feel through the retention. And then I'm going to let my chair in. Now, breathing typically isn't a focus in Shavasana. It's deeper than that. Lips together, heart. There's the chair, the earth, and the floating. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Don't just thank your body. Thank the hum. It never leaves you. It only changes forms for the mind. You get to come back with your breath. Slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation, traveling back to the confusion of what human beings do. When you're ready, open your eyes. Close them again. This time, maybe open them and smile. Right? When I reground out of the rabbit hole, I'm always amazed at how much folly is in my mind. Right? It's like, wait, it's not in charge of delusions of grandeur. Yeah. All right, everybody. Exercise at all. Asana is a vehicle for all of you, not just for the feeling better part of you. End of the day, it'll make you feel better, though. Usually, over time, it makes you feel better. Right? I'm not going to lie to you. The road's kind of arduous sometimes. All right, I'll